We are nowhere. We're farther apart than when we started. Well, that ominous quote from Paul Ryan yesterday. Ryan, the chair of the House Budget Committee, GOP's certainly a golden child when it comes to all things fiscal and perhaps the party's presumptive major player here, where we look forward to 2016, added one more line in that interview that he thinks President Obama wants to take us over the fiscal cliff. Well, does he? Treasury Secretary Tim Geithner, he just told CNBC minutes ago that the administration is absolutely ready for the economy to go over the cliff rather than accept a budget deal that doesn't include higher taxes for top earners. Or will the president listen to growing voices on Wall Street calling for a resolution, any resolution, and sooner than later? Also, is the president's insistence driving a wedge into the GOP? Well, we're going to get into all of that with our panel in a few minutes. But first, the latest coming out of D.C. And Andrew, again, one more day and no closer to a deal.
I was trying to find an analogy, Rich, that would let people know what the climate is like in Washington all of a sudden. It's feeling a lot like a holiday party. If you're used to a holiday party with family members sitting around the table all arguing about the state of the nation and, unfortunately, about the state of our economy.
Today, President Obama issued a strong warning to Republicans: do not use the debt ceiling as a bargaining chip in the fiscal cliff talks.
That is a bad strategy for America. It is a bad strategy for your businesses, and it is not a game that I will play.
The Obama administration has made it clear that raising the debt ceiling should be part of any fiscal cliff deal, and it should be done without any Capitol Hill drama. But the president today accused Republicans of planning to agree to extend the middle-class tax cuts while letting the top rates increase just to be in a better bargaining position next year on the debt ceiling. It's unclear if negotiations on the fiscal cliff are even happening, despite the president's optimistic tone.
We can probably solve this in about a week. It's not that tough.
The two sides still deadlocked when it comes to raising tax rates.
Let's allow higher rates to go up for the top 2%.
There are ways to limit deductions, close loopholes, and have the same people pay more of their money to the federal government without raising tax rates, which we believe will harm our economy.
But some Republicans have already indicated they would break with their party and support raising taxes on the top 2% of earners in order to reach a deal.
The House Republican leadership are like generals, hunkered away in a bunker, who don't realize that their army in the field has already laid down its arms.
Some good news and some bad news to follow that up with. The good, Congress all but canceling their Christmas vacation today. They will not recess as scheduled on November 14th and instead will stay in session until a deal is reached. And now the bad news, starring President Obama and Speaker Boehner. The two, for whatever reason, failed to take a photo together at a White House holiday party, something that's usually a bit of an unofficial tradition. It's not clear who scuttled the photo op or why. That certainly doesn't sound good for these negotiations, though the two men did speak on the phone earlier this afternoon. There are also growing signs that Wall Street is pushing for a deal and willing to take on higher taxes for the economic certainty that a deal would provide. Several Wall Street executives suggesting as much, or as Fox Business analyst Charles Gasparino put it in the Post, Wall Street's top guns want a quick resolution to the fiscal mess, and in his view, they will happily throw small business under the bus to get it. Rich?
All right. This is about leverage. This is about negotiation. I'll start with you. It does seem, though, a week ago, and maybe I was so conditioned to the Obama of the past 4 years, that he wanted a deal, and he didn't want to hit 1231 and risk. I get the sense that he not only feels he's got leverage, he's not going to take a halfway deal, including one that says, you know what, fine, guarantee tax cuts for the bottom 98%. He wants debt limit addressed in the deal. He wants not only top-end tax rates, obviously, in there. He wants to quantify and define which kind of deductions are and aren't on the table. And while I think he'd maybe protest a bit too much, he'd like for some of the, capitulations that the Democrats would have to give on entitlements like Medicare, like Social Security, maybe even down the road. He seems like he's going to drive a hard deal here because he thinks he's got the public with him.
He does. I mean, certainly the election, I believe, gave him that mandate. It was probably naive of a lot of us to suspect or to predict that it would be a quicker resolution. Maybe we were caught up in the euphoria of post-election. This is not just about this deal, and it's not as much about the House. I believe this is also about Senate races 2 years from now. Republicans have vulnerable seats up. They were supposed to pick seats up this time around, and they didn't. So really, it's the Senate Republicans that need to be stressing out about this. The House Republicans have already shown that they drive the country off a cliff.
Okay, but here's my thing. Enough Republicans, I think, are going to say, hey, time out. This is a bad hand to play to say that we're going to hold up all tax cuts. We're fighting for the top 2% instead of the 98. I believe it's days that they're going to publicly say we as a party embrace the idea of extending the tax cuts for the bottom 98%, and we'll deal in January or February with the top 2% and everything else. Now, I know the White House doesn't want the deal, but how does the White House sell to the American public? All your rates are going to go up because I want everybody addressed here, and I'm not going to trust that it'll all work itself out first quarter.
They can't hang their hat on Wall Street needs certainty. Nobody wants to hear that. It's a tough case to make. I agree with you. And I think that they're not necessarily going to call it taxes if they raise them. They're going to call them something else. And we saw early distance between the Grover Pledge and Norquist Pledge and the Republican Party. They floated that trial balloon, and it didn't get shot down too terribly.
Well, the president's language, I think, that you just heard, and the fact that they have not put any serious entitlement reforms on the table certainly indicates that they're not serious about making a deal. And let's be clear, the president was elected with an additional 450,000 votes. That does not a mandate make. And number two, this notion, this notion that you can tax the wealthy and it's going to solve all of our economic woes is patently false.
You and I
Come
both
on, Richard.
know at the end of the day, the top end rates are going to go up. Now, it could go up to 37, it could go to 39, it could start at $500,000.
The president has put out this message, and his party has duped the American people into thinking that by raising the top income earners that you're going to solve all the nation's problems.
Reform is on the table. It's just it will be on the table. It is not yet in the sequence of events.
What they're talking about is over a 10-year period. It's like taking a sip of water out of the ocean.
Nobody's looking at top-end taxes and saying that's going to solve all of our problems. This is President Obama looking and saying, you know what? Enough. He's looking ahead to February or March when we have another fight over the debt limit, another hostage situation that goes on with congressional Republicans, and he's saying, no, I'm not going to run the second 4 years of my administration running into hostage situations all the time. I'm going to get what I want now.
Last year, when he was talking about the debt ceiling, he said, we can come up with a deal that would give $1.2, I think, trillion in revenues by restructuring the tax code, closing loopholes and deductions without raising taxes. Those words came out of the president's mouth himself, and now all of a sudden they're not on the table anymore.
Now he's got. He's in a better leverage. Now he's in a better leverage position. He just had an election.
He's not separate but equal branches.
Everything you're saying is right.
Exactly.
Everything you're saying is right, except the president campaigned on raising taxes on the top end, and he got elected on it. And whether he should or shouldn't, the fact of the matter is he believes, and his polling tells him, if there's a deal, top are going to pay more. And if you believe at the end of the day they are too, why are we dancing around the subject? Why don't we get it all done right now?
I agree with you to a point, but it has to be a negotiation. And so, of course, the House Republicans are going to balk at raising taxes when no one is offering any real entitlement reforms. Why
offer it when you know the House Republicans are going to portray themselves to be what they are and how they behave during the debt limit? It's the gift that keeps on giving.
That have come out and thrown Grover Norquist under the bus. There has certainly been a crack in that.
Stay with me. When we come back, everybody, we're going to bring in Senator Gillibrand on this subject about the fiscal cliff and more. Stay with us.